Hello and welcome to today's flipped learning lesson about expository writing. We have 3 things on the agenda, and by the end of the lesson, students will complete 100% of the graphic organizer web for expository writing with information that directly relates to the topic. In order to get there, we'll start with some notes about expository writing and what is involved in that process. Then we will work together on some expository web practice through guided practice and modeling. And finally, students will practice on their own with a topic provided by the instructor. Before we dig into the notes, take a moment to think about the following questions and respond to the right in Edpuzzle. First off, what is expository writing? After answering that question, talk a little bit about when someone might use expository writing. For the purpose of this lesson, we'll be writing an 8-sentence standalone expository paragraph. The format for a paragraph like this is fairly simple. It starts off with a topic sentence, and then moves on to 2 support sentences, which each have an elaboration sentence of their own, before finally coming to a close with a clincher sentence. On the next slide, we'll go a bit more into detail about what each of these sentences contains, but the important piece of information is that the format for a standalone paragraph is like a sandwich. The good stuff is in between the bread, which is your topic sentence, and your clincher. There are a few main topics involved in the development of an expository paragraph. The first of which is the topic sentence, which states the main idea of your paragraph and makes your claim. Next up are the support sentences, which adds details linked to your main idea and claim, supporting what you're trying to prove to your audience. You will have 2 support sentences in the 8-sentence paragraph, and each one will be a separate support that supports your claim. Next, under each support sentence, you'll have an elaboration sentence, which goes even one step further in specific support for your claim. Before each support sentence, it's important to include a transition word, which helps add flow to the paper. Finally, you'll have the clincher sentence at the very end, which will restate the topic sentence and restate your claim, so that the reader leaves your paragraph knowing exactly what you wanted them to know. There are several things that are extremely important to avoid when writing any kind of formal paragraph or theme. The first thing to avoid is something called a dummy subject. Things like there is, there are, it is, it has, or here is. And these are things that distract the reader from the actual topic of the sentence before the topic is established. In the example below, the incorrect sentence says, "It is very important to wear a helmet when riding on your bike." When the reader begins reading this sentence, they see "it is" and doesn't necessarily know what the subject of the sentence it is. A way to change this sentence so that it is correct would be to say, "Wearing a helmet while riding a bike is very important." By changing it this way, the reader knows from the very first 3 words what the subject of the sentence is and where it's going. Another important thing to avoid when writing a formal paragraph is contractions. Contractions are words that are smashed together with an apostrophe, such as it's, can't, don't, and an incorrect way of using these would be, "It's very hard to believe that these animals can't fly." This sentence contains 2 contractions and is very unprofessional. A correct way to write this sentence would be to say, "Believing that these animals cannot fly is very hard." Finally, something else to avoid in a formal paragraph is a first or second reference, second person reference, which is referring directly to yourself or your reader, saying things like I, me, or you anywhere in your paper. Let's start practicing on a graphic organizer. The first piece that we need to fill in on our expository paragraph web is the topic. For the intent of this model, I will choose something that I'm personally interested in, which is video games. So I'll fill in that part of the slide with the word video games. Now that I have chosen a topic for my expository paragraph, I need to decide on a claim, which is what I'm trying to prove to my audience. For the intents of this model, I've decided that my claim will be that video games are an exceptionally fun way to spend your time. To prove this to my audience, I need to decide on 2 supporting themes that will help me show the audience why video games are a fun way to spend your time. I've decided to divide this into mobile games and console games because those are both slightly more specific than just the topic of video games, but are still non-specific enough that I can choose on 2 elaboration sentences that will fit beneath them and help to prove my point. Now that I've completed my topic and both supports on the graphic organizer, I only have one step left to finish. For each of the support sentences, I need to write 2 elaboration sentences that help support each of them. So for the first one, which is mobile games, I will choose 2 mobile games that help me prove to my audience that video games are a fun way to spend your time. For the intents of this model, I will use Clash of Clans and Candy Crush, which are 2 popular mobile games that many people have a good time playing. On the other side of the graphic organizer, I also need 2 elaboration sentences for console games. 2 console games that people have fun with are Halo and Madden NFL. Between these 4 elaboration sentences, I'm proving to my audience that there are many people in the world who have a fun time playing video games, and that maybe it's a good fit for the reader as well. Now that we can look at the graphic organizer as a whole, it's important to notice how the specificity of each topic changes as we go down the organizer. We start very general with video games and get slightly more specific when we divide it into the two support sentences of mobile games and console games. However, both supports still support my claim. Then, from each support, we get 2 even more specific examples in our elaborations. It's important to note that even as we go down the graphic organizer and get more and more specific, every box on the organizer helps support my claim that video games are a fun way to spend your time. Now try on your own. I've provided you the topic of food, and I would like you to develop a claim about food, something that you can support, and 2 support sentences to help support your claim. Do this in the box on the right. Now I'd like you to try the whole thing on your own. Copy this graphic organizer onto a piece of loose leaf paper and try to fill it in, choosing your own topic, supports, and elaborations. The prompt I'd like you to use is the ideal vacation destination. A hint for this will be that the topic would be whatever location you're trying to write about, and your claim will be proving that that place is the ideal location for a vacation.